Okay, so this is the last day of features of a function. So you should have done domain range, increase, decrease, constant. X-intercept is when the function is on the x-axis and it's always written as a point x comma 0. This x is a number that will change, the 0 will not. Y-intercept is when the function is on the y-axis, so that's going to be written as point 0 comma y. 0 will always be there. This y is whatever number you're crossing it at. A maximum is the very top of the function. So if it's a peak, like if it ends in a point like this, then you're going to write it as a point x comma y. If it's flat up top like this, then you're going to write it as y equals a number, so whatever that highest y value is. And then it'll be none if you got yourself an arrow that's going forever as your peak or as your maximum. A minimum is the very bottom of the function, okay? So you write as a point if it's got a peak at the bottom, like so. Or if it is like an actual point, like an open dot or a closed dot, I forgot to say that. Y equals a number if it's flat. So again, if your lowest area is flat. And then it's none if you got an arrow happening where your minimum is gonna occur. So last two pages, right? Because you should have filled out the rest of it. And let's look at this first one together. Have you guys noticed that all of these graphs are the same? Maybe somebody caught on. Okay, x-intercepts. So sometimes there can be more than one. So here's my x-axis. Let me highlight it in some type of way. So here's my x-axis. This is where my x-intercepts will occur. All right, so my graph passes through right here at -1 and right here at 2. So I'm going to write this as -1 comma 0, and then we also have 2 comma 0. All right, my y-axis is right here. So this is where my y-intercepts are going to happen at, and it looks like my graph is happening through right here at -1. So I write this as 0 comma -1. So be careful. It's still a point. You know, you've written points out forever, but now we're giving them some names. All right, maximum. Where's the highest point? Well, my highest point is this guy right here. Even if it's an open dot, that counts, right? So that's a point. I can write that out, -4 comma 3. Very good. The lowest part of my graph is right here. And we'll do that in purple. That's my lowest point. That's a peak, and that's okay. We can use that. So that's going to be 1 comma -2. Okay. I want you to notice something here. So I'm going to flip back to a couple days ago. This maximum has a 3 and a -2 as those y values. Look at the range from back in the day. -2 and 3. It's the same, right? Bottom to top. Minimumist point, maximus point. That's what you're doing with, okay? Just want to point that out. All right, next one. X-intercepts on the x-axis. We only have one, and that one is at -2. So I'm going to write this as -2 comma 0. Y-intercept happens on the y-axis. We only have one. Woohoo! And that one is happening at the number 3. 0 comma 3. All right. Maximum. All right, is, oh, it's a flat line. So this is like my most maximum. All right, so that means we're going to write it as y equal because it's flat. Y equals, and that's happening at 3. That's the maximum. The minimum is another flat line, so that's okay. It's flat. So it's going to be y equals, and again, it's because it's flat. And that's happening at -3. Very good. Oop, extend that. X-intercepts happen on the x-axis. Boop. We only got one. That's nice. And it's happening at the origin, and the origin is 0, 0. The y-axis is where those y-intercepts happen at. Boop. It only happens once. And again, it's happening at the origin. Oh my gosh, they're the same. 0, 0. And that's the only time these guys will ever be the same, is when they're both passing through the origin. Well, when the function is passing through origin. Okay, anywho. Maximum, highest point. This is as high as my graph goes. All right, and it's got a flat line. That's what wins. So we're gonna have y equals, and that y value is 2. And again, it's because it's flat. Even though we got that dot there, okay, it doesn't matter. This whole thing is flat, okay? That's all of that is the maximum. So that we can't write, there's too many points. There's a bajillion points in between here and here, okay? So you just write it as y equals 2, okay? All right, last. Minimum. Our minimum is an arrow, so there's none. And that's because of that arrow. Can't write that. That arrow goes forever. It don't stop. It keeps going. So there's no minimum. It's forever. X-intercepts happen on the x-axis. There's only one happening here. And that one is at this -2. And we write it as a -2, 0. I must really like the number 2. Y-intercepts happen on the y-axis. Our y-intercept in this graph is happening at -2, and we write it as 0, -2. Our maximum is an arrow, which means there's none. That arrow goes forever. All right, and it's none because of that arrow. Our minimum is this open dot right here, and it's a dot. We can write that. That's the point. We know what to do. We can write that. We'll write that as 3, -3, right? 3, -3, x, y. Lovely. All right, that's the end of this video. Have a lovely day.